I shared earlier that Sukkot is my favorite holiday. I just wish it didn't take place 3 or 4 days after Yom Kippur. Right? I wish we had time to recover from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. If Sukkot took place, in the springtime between Pesach and Shavuot, after Shavuot, I also would prefer if Sukkot took place, all holidays took place mid-September instead of mid-October, when it was more of a no jacket weather in the Sukkah instead of a sweater weather, or maybe even a scarf weather in the Sukkah. But the reason that I love Sukkot so much is exactly the reason why it needs to be so close to Yom Kippur. The Sfat Emet talks about how Yom Kippur is meant to mirror a wedding. It's odd when we think of it as such a solemn day, but as I talked about during Ne'ilah, it is actually, the Talmud says, the most joyous of all Jewish holidays. And we wear whites like we do at a wedding. We fast as it's customary that a couple does before they stand underneath the chuppah. And so if Yom Kippur is meant to be our recommitment of vows of sorts, Sfat Emet talks about how Simchat Torah is meant to be our signing of our ketubah again, our recommitments to Torah as our ketubah. So why does Sukkot need to happen now, immediately after Yom Kippur? Inyan Sukkah kamo chuppah, shegomeret hakinyan isha leba'ala b'Sukkot hoshafti. Because the Sukkah is meant to mirror the chuppah. And it's that chuppah, that moment when a couple stands underneath the chuppah, that the kinyan, the agreement that was made before the wedding itself takes place, goes into effect. We can think about this in beautiful terms for a second, that the chuppah represents the first home that a couple builds together. And so the minute they stand underneath that chuppah, they are at that moment become married. Regardless of whether they live together or not, it's at that time their house becomes a home. It becomes the Jewish home that they're going to build together. And so too, the sukkah that we build represents that home that we build with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if you actually look at the text, it's a bit more than that, which may seem odd, may make us feel a little bit uncomfortable about what our relationship with God is actually supposed to be. But the chuppah as a wedding canopy is a much more modern revelation. If you look at what the chuppah was in the Talmud, it was actually the wedding chamber. It was the place where the couple went to, for lack of a better term, consummate the marriage, where everybody else partied around them, oddly and uncomfortably, as the couple spent the next week in the chuppah, continuously consummating the marriage. So if that's what the chuppah is, then think about this in those terms. That the sukkah is supposed to mirror the chuppah for our relationship with God. That it's supposed to be the place where we experience the most intimate of moments between us and God, because that's ultimately what our relationship with God is supposed to be. It's the reason why the first thing we're supposed to do after we break the fast is put that nail in the sukkah. It's supposed to represent that intimacy, that recommitment that we have, that high that we come off of after Ne'ilah, to take that not just into our relationship with ritual and our relationship with community. In some ways that's much easier, but into our personal relationship with the divine, which is significantly harder. And so we spend time living with God all around us. We spend time doing everything outside in our sukkah. We eat, and we dwell, and we sleep. And the Sfat Emet ends with this quote from Parshat Emor, which was read this morning, B'Sukkot hoshafti, from Vayikra 23:43, but it's not just B'Sukkot hoshafti, in Sukkot, right, we all dwelt. It's Leman yid'u dorotechem ki b'Sukkot hoshafti ki b'nei Yisrael ba'otzeiti otam eretz Mitzrayim ani Adonai Elohechem. You dwell in the Sukkot so that future generations will know me intimately, like B'nai Yisrael knew me. so that future generations will experience the miracle of Yetziat Mitzrayim, will experience the miracle of wandering in the wilderness, will experience that closeness of the miracles that Bnei Yisrael experienced. And I think when we live in this world, we experience miracles every day, and we take those miracles for granted. We take those everyday miracles for granted. But we also take the big adol, large miracles for granted as well, and feel like, oh, we don't experience the split sea. We don't experience the miracles that Bnei Yisrael experience. Our relationship with God is different. And yet, when we dwell outdoors, especially when we live in a society where we are hardly outdoors, when we spend so much of our time surrounded by God, right? The whole reason that we shake the lulav and etrog the way we do is to remind us to be surrounded by God. When we spend so much time surrounding ourselves by God, surrounding ourselves with God, then we return to that idea of knowing God like the Israelites did in the wilderness in Sukkot. Then we spend so much time being in relationship with God. Then we are intimate once again, and the chuppah can truly be that return to our intimate personal relationship with God. And then our task at hand is what we do a week from now when we take the sukkah down, when we return to our dirat keva, to our permanent dwelling structures. We take down our dirat arai, our fragile, temporary sukkots. And we strive in our everyday lives again to find that intimacy between us and the divine. But for this moment, exhausted as we are, I'm told that it's not just rabbis who are exhausted, but all Jews are exhausted after the high holidays. To use this time to find those intimate moments between us and God, and to have those moments carry with us so that we are continuing to be surrounded by God, and God continues to surround us and carry us throughout the year to come. Chag Sameach.